at the wheel. Tell me how good.
Hi guys, welcome to a new Sivappu Devils podcast, and this is going to be like a fortnight thing or a monthly thing where we call some of our friends or people who we know who are ardent United fans or ardent football fans, and we'll hear them talk about their journey with their teams that they support, their love for football, and everything else. So today, for our first Sivappu Devils podcast, we have Rohit Rao, also known as KP to us,
Hi guys.
who is another
What's up, Rohit?
huge United fan. He's a huge United fan, just like us, and he's a junior of ours from school again. KP, why don't you start with your journey? Just talk to us about your journey with United.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on this podcast. So I started following United at a pretty good time in 2006. So my brother introduced me to football, and he said support Manchester United because they have two very up and coming talents like Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo, and he turned out to be pretty right. So I think I was kind of spoiled because the first 3 years I started supporting United. We won the league all 3 seasons, and we made a Champions League semi-final, a final, and of course that brilliant night in Moscow in 2008 where we won. So it was pretty good. Even after that, I think we never finished. If I'm not wrong, I didn't think we finished below second till Sir Alex Ferguson left.
Yeah.
But it's been up and down since then. But you got to stick to your club through good times and bad. So here we are.
Right. Teaches you a lot about life also. Huh?
Yeah. Some good memories would be probably the 7-1 victory over Roma, which we had in 2007. I think this match is still available on Manchester United TV for free. So I managed to catch it this week. Other than that, maybe definitely the Champions League victory in Luzhniki and Sir Alex Ferguson's farewell was also pretty memorable to me. And recently re-signing Paul Pogba, I mean, the hype was very much there when he signed. Do you guys remember the Stormzy video which came out when Pogba signed? Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. There was just too much of media and it was marketing frenzy with Pogba signing, you know. Why don't you talk about what your views are on the current squad? Why don't you tell us what's your opinion on the current squad? You think who do you think is really good? Who do you think is bad? Who do you think we should let go?
Who do you think we should build a squad on for the future? Like what Ole is doing right now?
Yeah, I think we're in a very good position. I mean, compared to last season, we're in a much better position now. So I'm going to split it across the 4 areas on the pitch. So goalkeeper, I think we're covered with De Gea and Romero, and we also have Henderson waiting in the wings. So I think one more loan move in the Premier League would do really good for them. I think it's done very well for Sheffield United. I think they've conceded 5 fewer goals in United actually. I think we have conceded 30 and Sheffield United have conceded only 25 goals. So that's pretty cool. So I think we're set in the goalkeeping department. I think we have Matej Kovar from the under-18s who's doing pretty well too. So I don't think we'll have to sign a goalkeeper for a long time now. Coming to right back, I think Diego Dalot and Van Bissaka are pretty solid. I don't see any issues there. I think we'll need to find a partner for Harry Maguire, preferably a left-sided defender. But I think that Ole won't be prioritizing on a centre-back this season. Left back, Brandon Williams and Shaw are okay. It definitely needs to be improved, but I don't think that will happen this season. There's a small issue which I have with Brandon Williams is that he's a right-footed defender playing in left back. So I think
I was telling. I think in the previous video we were talking about the same thing. Like, are we short there in that position? I think we are, as you say. I think I don't know. Like Brandon Williams may or may not. I mean, may be doing well, but I don't know if he's suited consistently performing over a season in that role. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So Shaw was pretty good before football stopped. So I think we should probably give him one more season. He's had a bad luck with injuries, so I think we should stick with him. I think CDM is definitely a position which we need to strengthen because Matic is not getting any younger. I think center midfield we are pretty sorted. We'll probably get to the Paul Pogba issue later on. Right wing and forwards, It's pretty good because we have Rashford and Mason Greenwood and Igalo. Hopefully, he stays and signs a new contract with us. We'll definitely need a right-sided winger because there's nobody there right now, and hopefully Sancho can come in and sort that.
I mean, there is Dan James. He did a fairly decent job, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. He's no Sancho. He's not somebody who's like within the top 10 right backs in Europe. So it's definitely somebody we should definitely be looking at. Somebody that should be probably our priority, right?
Yep, I think it would be good if we have Sancho and James on the right wing. James has done really well this season. I think a lot of pressure was put on him at the start of the season, so the expectations were really
Absolutely.
high.
For what
he
he came in and yeah, exactly. I think
set his
that's
bar too high.
fairly.
So he started off with a bang, and then he probably plateaued to his probable level that he was at. And everybody started throwing tantrums about him not performing to the levels that he was, which is very unfortunate. But it's fine. It's fine. Football fans are like that. They are emotional. At some point of time, all of us wear our hats on our sleeves, and we get emotional about our clubs and our players, and we want all our teams always to win. Transfers. Who do you think out of the people who we've been linked to? Who do you think is really? Who do you think you really fancy? Who do you really fancy signing for United? Apart from your Jadon Sancho, obviously, who's looks more close to signing. Sorry, go ahead.
I think we're doing really well in terms of transfers under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he has a proper vision for the club. I think last season's motto was youth, courage, and success, which pretty much sums up the signings we've made. I also heard United are getting a team of data analysts together so that we sign better players in the future, and rather than signing players at the peak, try sign younger players who will develop with us. So along that lines, I think a good transfer window would be Jude Bellingham, youth prospect who can come into the first team, play a host of positions. He can play anywhere from center midfield to left wing to forward, anywhere. So I think Jude Bellingham would be a good start. I'm not stating the obvious by saying Jadon Sancho.
Right.
Other than that, I really like Dennis Zakaria. He's a central defensive midfielder who plays for Gladbach in the Bundesliga. He's 23 years old and is capped for Switzerland. He's a very good defensive midfielder. And comparing with Matic, I think he already has a higher interceptions per game and tackles per game than Matic, and I think he'll slot in very well at center defensive midfield. And obviously, I don't think Pogba will stay this season, so Jack Grealish would be a good replacement for him.
Grealish?
Yes. So that would be Grealish, Bellingham, Zakaria, and Sancho.
So you really think Grealish, Jude Bellingham would come slot straight into the first 11, the playing 11 of?
Oh no, I was talking about the transfers this season.
Right. But do you think he would come straight into the playing 11 and or rather the main squad and be a part of it?
I think he'll definitely be part of the main squad because I feel he's an upgrade to Andres Pereira.
Right. I mean, somebody
I'm an upgrade to Andres Pereira.
Somebody from the IFL would be an upgrade to Andres Pereira.
So I think he would slot into the squad, but not in the main team directly, but probably for the League Cup.
Right. So he'll be a rotation player. But I see. Considering our links to Jude Bellingham, what my personal opinion is, let him come in and let him play for the reserves for at least a year, so that he can hone his skills a little better. And after that, probably
Bellingham is he's a solid signing, being picked up by a lot of teams. I don't think he's going to play for the reserves. He's not going to come in and play for the reserves for sure. I think if he's going to be something like a James kind of a signing. Who will come in probably if we are desperate in the midfield at that point, he's probably going to start as well, just like how James was starting pretty much every game at the start of the season. And I think he's got a pretty good record. I think he's strong. He's built really well. He's really good on the ball. Something box to box. Also, you can say he fits in a lot of roles. He's actually. I think we should I mean, if you're looking at him seriously, he's a good signing if it
Yeah,
happens.
I
yeah,
think James
he
Maddison
definitely
also
proven.
slotted directly into the main squad after coming from the championship.
Yeah.
James Maddison at Leicester.
Right, agreed. But when you consider the size, the sheer size of the club of Manchester United and all of that, that is where my apprehensions come in. Let's say he has a performance very similar to what James had, but the complete opposite of it. He starts off really bad. The amount of pressure and the amount of stick that he'd get is from United fans is going to be so high, especially on social media, that which is not a good thing. So I ideally see if you pick him up well and good, I would ideally want him to play for the reserves. I understand that there are a lot of teams like Dortmund who want him, and he would slot into the playing 11 and he would start playing there. But I would ideally want him to come play for the reserves, hone his skills, and then gradually move into the playing 11, because you don't want him. See, he's a really good prospect. If things go wrong, it could spiral really fast, and he could end up losing his career completely because of that. And you don't want somebody who has great potential at such a young age to go through something really bad like that. That is my personal opinion about Jude Bellingham. Um, but
But he probably
that's
slot in the under 23s and play in those cup tournaments. He probably,
right,
start off that.
right, right,
If we're
right.
strong in midfield, that's all, with the if that we're going to have a strong midfield with Fred,
Correct.
Matic, Bruno, Pogba, everybody fit
Right,
together.
right.
I mean,
And
yeah,
considering the fact that the number of youngsters who are moving to Dortmund for to get that big break, the likelihood of us signing him is very bleak, at least. Because all we've heard as of now, at least, is just that he's visited a lot of different training facilities at a lot of different clubs, and he's still considering his options along with his parents for his
yeah, but I
next
think we'll
move.
get a lot of clarity in transfer market per se probably now in the next week onwards, because now
Agreed.
everything is starting to open up
Correct.
a lot more. We're seeing teams coming into practice. I think we're going to talk about that as well. So
Mhm.
like since we're now going to talk about the pre and the post COVID era, so Rohit, what do you
All right.
think about like football in general and how it's going to start? Is it going to start Premier League per se? Because we know that the Dutch league has ended. We know that the
Captain.
French
Yeah,
league has
ended.
ended. PSG crowned champions. What do you think the Premier League, the English Premier League, and the FA is going to do about it?
I think they have a meeting tonight, and I really think they'll try and get started by June mid. But I'm not sure if all the players are ready, because Aguero recently released a statement saying that not many
Yesterday. Yeah.
players want to play the Premier League and they don't want to be away from family at this point, which is very understandable. Also, a lot of concern is being raised because of the age of the managers. A lot of managers are pretty old. I mean, on the
True.
wrong side of 50s and 60s. So if they, God forbid, contract the virus, then it's going to be a pretty bad
It's going to
situation.
be ugly. It's going to be
Yeah.
ugly, actually.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
So
yeah.
although we love football a lot, I don't think we should rush back. I think we should just
The
take our time.
priority should not be
Yeah.
football at this
and
point of time.
especially because they're calling in all the players within the next, probably this week onwards, and all the international players are back
Next,
in
yeah,
their homes.
yeah,
So it's a risk
definitely.
getting them in. Then they have to quarantine themselves for like I think 14 days
14 days,
and get
right?
them back. Then you have the team trying to be comfortable with whoever traveled. There's a lot of. I mean, we know that we're sitting in the house. We're not trying to go out. So imagine the players and their family, and the player staff, the team, the club, everybody. So it's going to be like a huge challenge if they're planning to open. But for me personally, I feel that I think Premier League they are doing everything they can to start. They're doing absolutely everything. I don't think they're as bold in their decision making like the other leagues. I think.
I,
Dutch, the
you
Dutch
know,
they took the decision. I think keeping health as priority, not nothing else matters, and they went for it. I don't think the Premier League are bold enough
and
to
you
do
look
that.
at we've not spoken about the German league, which is apparently supposed to be back in the next couple of weeks, which
Yeah,
is exciting for football fans. At the same time, it's still very nervous. You don't know what's happening, and that will probably be our litmus test for the rest of the leagues to see what is probably going to happen and how to go about it. You know, so
yeah.
that
I
that
think the
that
other
that
way
should
around
be a good.
also is that they're justifying it as an economy boost as well. I think a lot of people work for the football industry, so when jobs start, economy kickstarts in some way or the other. So I think that's another justification. And Premier League football or football in general in England or the UK is massive.
Right.
So I'm guessing that's also a play, and government is obviously involved in that sense. So
Mhm.
it's going to be a big call, I think, tonight, right,
Yeah.
KP? You're saying tonight is the
Yeah, I think
decision.
there's a meeting going on, meeting scheduled tonight. We'll probably get more information over the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Uh,
mean, what do you guys think?
yeah.
I mean, should we start or not?
You know what? For selfish reasons, I don't want the league to start. For the simple fact that I don't want to see Liverpool lift the trophy, because I can't. I have a couple of Liverpool fans who I absolutely can't stand them for just the fact that they support Liverpool, and they're all about, oh, in the last 30 years we listened to your smack, and now it's our time. And yeah, no, I don't want their time
I
to ever
don't want
come,
Liverpool to win the league, but then the other side is not good for us as well. Like Champions League football is not going to happen again for another year.
No,
Uh,
so here's the thing, right? So when the league gets cancelled, ideally what would happen is they would look at the standings. See, even if we don't get to play the Champions League, I'm for the next season, I am kind of fine because I know I have confidence that this will be the next last season that we play the Champions League. After that, I mean, sorry, the Europa League. After that, we would definitely go into the Champions League because of the sheer quality in our squad, right? So I'm willing to take that 1 year hit for seeing Liverpool not lift the trophy, and
you
let's
want
say let's say
Liverpool to
let's
win
say
the league?
in hindsight, or another scenario could be that they choose to not they cancel the league and they choose to select
Why?
the teams based on the points table right now, or even points per game. Then United stand fifth, and considering the fact that Manchester City
City.
had banned for the next 2 years, we would still be in to play the Champions League. So it's kind of a win-win for us anyway. So
No,
all of us.
if they fall in on the positions, then they give Liverpool the trophy. So that's not a
No, no,
win-win.
no, no, no. So I'm talking about this only for the
Ah,
Champions League because
Champions League.
the,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
UEFA came out
I
and
think
said
Champions League
it
are
has to
planning.
be done on merit basis. Merit
Yeah.
basis. So my understanding of merit basis could be either of the two, wherein they look at the league standings as of now or the points per game. So when you look at both, United come fifth, and when you look at when where you so considering our again Man City, we'd ideally be in the Champions League, which is exciting for us.
I think
But
any decision.
God knows if you're going to be having European football anyway next season with
I,
how this pandemic is going.
I think any decision which the Premier League takes is going to be controversial now because yesterday I think the French league declared PSG as the winners and their own slots for Champions League and Europa League, and I think a couple of clubs have already decided to take them to court, asking them how they can do this without a proper method.
Lyon is one of the teams, right?
Yeah, Lyon. Yeah, I think they're seventh in the table and they have a chance of finishing in the Europa League spot. So I expect a lot of problems to come. I mean, irrespective of
Yeah.
what the Premier League
The
does.
other way is, I think they were mentioning that the Premier League starts again, but not at all venues. So I mean, clubs will be playing in neutral venues as well. So, I mean, that's another. I don't know how does it work. Like, for,
How does it matter when you don't have fans supporting you
yeah,
in
but
neutral venue? Really
neutral
doesn't matter
venues, again,
unless unless you
it's a
can
shine,
you fact unless you factor in the size of the thickness of the grass. Certain teams like to cut the grass really low, so that the ball moves really fast to help them with, like, let's say for example United would ideally want to cut the grass really short so that the ball skids through really fast and it goes on, ball moves fast to help our counter-attacking style of play. So that's probably the only way I see the grounds being a difference with football being played behind closed doors.
There'll definitely be a lot of issues cropping up. Even the points per game system, I think, is a bit flawed because it does not take the strength of the fixtures remaining into account. So if someone is
Agreed.
facing
Agreed.
three top four teams and someone is facing the say three bottom three
correct.
teams, then it's going to be the same for them. So
Mhm.
there's definitely not going to be a one size fits all solution. So it's going to be fun
Yeah.
to see what happens.
See, that's where logic kicks in, where you're like, you know what, we understand football is not going to happen again. So voiding the season is probably the most sensible option that works all. See,
I think
let's say even if we
I think he might be a
decide
little
not to
biased.
play
But
the league,
a lot of, I think a lot of pundits, a lot of football critics, football analysts, they all probably are on one particular decision. I mean, you don't have the league restarting again to avoid any. I mean, you're not going to satisfy everybody. The most
you're right.
easiest one is to just have it at the current positions, have Liverpool crowned as champions, have the three relegation positions determined on the current position.
Uh-huh. See,
That's the
I'll tell
least
you,
damage, I guess. I mean, that's
I'm looking at the I'm looking at this I'm looking at the table, right? So when I'm looking at the table, let's say they decide to go with whatever crown Liverpool the champions. The problem is when you look at the bottom, the bottom of the table, you see Norwich at 20 on 20th position. They've played 29 games and they have 21 points, right? And then Aston Villa has played 28 games on 25 points. Then there is Bournemouth who played 29 games on 27 points. And then there is West Ham, Watford, also who are in 16th and 17th position, who are also on 27 points. The difference is only through goal difference. Now, the each one of them has a cost has a good enough argument to say had the league played, we would have not been in the relegation zone, right? Other than probably Norwich, who are well and truly out of the because it's between the four teams, there's only a 4 point difference. Not even a 4 point. There's a 2 point difference. There's a 2 point difference, which is quite absurd. I don't see unless they want to promote two teams from the championship and then retain all the teams, all the 20 teams, and then have a 22 team season next year, which is highly unlikely. And
a
then
lot of money
relegate
involved
five
as well
teams
for
next
a lot
year.
of clubs.
It's going to be a lot of politics and what we hear
Talking about
with how Liverpool
probably
is
money
perceived.
involved, I think we know that a club is getting a lot of money. So, what about
Yeah.
Newcastle? What do you think Newcastle is
Oh,
into? Are they into deep trouble? Looks like in future, or you're looking at this 300 billion investment as a good thing for Premier League or first Newcastle? Let's talk about Newcastle.
yeah.
I think the one of the Saudi Arabia's journalists confirmed the deal. I think that deal is going to happen now. The
Yeah,
takeover.
it was a small hiccup with the whole that sports channel, the Bain sports channel, right? I think they put
Right.
up a fight. So, I mean, that was a small hiccup. I think it was always going to happen.
Right.
I think. I think they have to look at Manchester City and what they did when they got this influx of investment in the late 2000s. So I think they did really well by signing a lot of good quality players rather than going for this one or two marquee signings. So what they did
Yeah,
was invest
they got it
in.
wrong, right? I think Man City initially they got it wrong.
Initially, they got it wrong with the signings like Robinho and all, but they figured it out later on with signings like David Silva, Yaya Toure, Sergio Aguero. All of these.
The whole structure, the management structure, also they completely
It's
changed. I think
very solid, very
2009.
solid, very solid.
Exactly. So I think they should first hire a good sporting director and after that a good coach and then go for the players rather than go for the players and then find someone to manage. So I think they're in talks with Pochettino as per rumors. That will be a brilliant signing for them. I think
It
Pochettino
would
would
work
be.
wonders. It's a win-win for everybody.
Apparently, I don't know. I read somewhere that at least they were interested in five players, which I think United, Chelsea, and City were interested as well. And everything is linked with Newcastle United. I think
See, the
even
thing is,
Coutinho. I read a rumor that Coutinho was also like related to. There's rumors that he might get transfer nod to Newcastle.
see, it's a very easy thing to do for journalists because all they have to do is just write Newcastle United because everybody knows they have the money that they are willing to splash out, right? So it's a very easy thing for the journalists to do. And where any player, when you see the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool being linked to, you know for a fact that it is a statement put out by the player's side or the team that owns that player that they want this narrative out that the player is out in the market to be sold. I don't think all these three clubs are going to be in for one particular player because clearly Manchester City need a defense center back,
I mean, I'm
right?
just
So
saying,
when you
I'm
look at
saying with
position,
Newcastle getting into the picture all the way through now, like because of the money, nothing else. I mean, otherwise,
right, exactly,
of course, like
exactly.
I think Jadon
But
Sancho is like
apparently,
really linked to Liverpool more than United because of
it's
Trent's interview. and him talking about
I don't think that's
Sancho.
happening. I don't
Even
think that's
Dennis Zakaria has been linked for a 90 million move to Liverpool recently.
Yeah, I mean Liverpool is getting like left right. I don't know if they're going to sign half the
But
players or more.
coming back to Newcastle, I think the most important signing is going to be the coach. I think if they get someone like Pochettino, then they'll be in good hands for sure because he is someone who knows how to work with the youth also.
How to
And I
build
don't think
a club per se.
build a squad. Build a
exactly,
squad.
exactly. So he did a great job with the Tottenham squad. I mean, they were in tatters when he came into Tottenham, and they did really well. So I think Newcastle should focus on getting a good sporting director and a coach, and then focus on players.
I'll just get a charger, guys. You guys continue.
Right. So I mean, we spoke about Newcastle, Ruth. So why don't we also talk about, since we are talking about news, why don't we also talk about what Rio Ferdinand said about Paul Pogba this week? He's come out and he's completely defended Paul Pogba's comments on Graham Souness. You know what, I absolutely hate Graham Souness, not just because he's a Liverpool ex-Liverpool player, but he's just his obsession with Paul Pogba just makes me cringe, because the man doesn't, the guy doesn't even play, man. He's played 10 games this season, 15 games this season, and he's spoken about Paul Pogba even more. He can't shut up about him, and him talking about him putting medals on the table when he's had a whole career to himself, and Paul Pogba is what, 26, 27 now, and he has a good 4-5 years of his prime still to come. It's absolutely absurd, and I'm so glad somebody like Rio Ferdinand came out and spoke backing Paul Pogba. So why don't you? I mean, what are your views on it? Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think Souness is just a bad analyst trying to stay relevant to the team.
Right, right.
But coming to Pogba, I mean, do you think it will be good if he stays or if he finally makes that move to either Real Madrid or Juventus?
I personally would like him to stay, because I would really like to see that combination of Bruno Fernandes and Pogba play together with either a Fred or a McTominay, or probably a Partey to come in. That will be a very, very nice midfield to look forward to. That would probably be the reason why I would want to see Paul Pogba. And I what my personal feeling is that Pogba has a sense of confidence with the squad now, in the last over the last 5-6 months at least, considering we've turned turned the tables, and we've started performing a little better, and we had a lot of unfortunate injuries this season. I think he's turned around. See, the reason why I'm telling all of that is because you've seen Paul Pogba doing a lot of public appearances, in terms of him doing the United podcast on the United channel, and then he's also gone on YouTube, and he had that hangout with Jesse Lingard, where it was really nice to see their banter between both of them. So I think that there's still a lot, but see, my only problem with Paul Pogba is not Paul Pogba himself, but his brother and his agent, right? Both of them can't shut up, and it would be really lovely, like how Rio Ferdinand came out and said that it'll be nice if Paul Pogba comes and says a word or two about his about his future. At least it'll put a lot of things to bed. We won't have to sit and speculate, saying whether, okay, is he going to stay or is he not going to stay. Like last season, when he came out blatantly and said that he wants to move, it was very evident that he wanted to make that move, right? So when he came out and said in Japan, if I'm not wrong, where he said, I want a new challenge, is what he said when he was doing that Adidas event, and he came out and said, oh, I want a new challenge. See, when he says something like that, he's taking ownership for his own actions, which is nice to see. When he's keeping quiet and letting people talk, it's not really nice, and it shows a lack of respect, to be honest, for the club and for the manager himself.
I think Paul Pogba as such, I think he's if he stays, he's going to be important, because I think he's been our best player last season. pretty much like as Rio said in that the podcast or the YouTube video which he was on. I think he covered all the stats. I think he was top in key chances, assists, shots on goal. So a lot of stats, very positive stats, and he's always leading the charts. And I think in the 7 or 8 games that we played, also he was very, very influential. So that sense, Pogba staying is a positive for the club for sure. But for me, my issue now is not about, okay, forget about his agent. That's one issue. But the new issue right now is he injury free or no? Because this has been a long, long injury. So is it going to occur again, and is it going to be this long? Are we going to depend on him because he's an important player? And if we don't sign anybody else to replace him in that position, we're going to again be short the next season. So that's an important call, which I think Solskjaer and the management have to make. Whether depending on him now, because he's also in the prime age, to hit the top form. And if his injuries are going to follow, forget about his off-field antics. If the injuries are going to follow, then that's going to affect the club more than him personally, to be honest.
I don't remember. Right, I completely hear you, but I don't remember the last time Paul Pogba was injured per se,
That's what I'm saying.
through his United career.
Right?
And the thing that we have to consider is that he's had not just one, he's had two different injuries, which is very unfortunate. He's had two separate injuries that has prolonged his injury time injured rather for about 8 months. That is, I think I want to say 8 months.
So, I mean, usually you relate that to any knee injury or a hamstring injury, which goes on for like almost a season. Then you don't see that player coming out with the best. He never comes back to that form. I read probably 80%. So, I mean, what do you think, Rod?
Yeah, I think we will be willing to talk to Juventus over the summer regarding Paul Pogba, but I don't think we'll be okay with swap signings, but we'll probably ask around 100 million for them. I personally won't be okay with swap signings also because they're just going to sell their scraps to us. So I think even Fabrizio Romano has come and said that unless they are willing to pay 100 million in cash, they're not going to. Man United are not going to budge. But if they do give that 100 million, I think we should take that and get Grealish. That's my personal opinion.
Right. Because so you think Grealish should come fill that void that Pogba leaves behind?
Yes, and he also fits Ole's young English player mold of their. And also with that money, I think we can buy a CDM as well as Grealish.
Yeah.
Right. But do you think don't you think he'll absolutely be battered if Paul Pogba gets battered for him putting out a video on social media? Imagine if Grealish had signed for United. So I have two things with the Grealish signing, right? First thing is the fact that United fans would absolutely decimate him if he was a United player and he had done that whole crash during the lockdown period. United fans would be completely all over him, and he would have lost the fan. The second thing is right after that accident happened, Oli on one of the United hangouts, he had spoken about him wanting players who are being responsible and for their actions and all of that, which is talking completely against the actions that Jack Grealish had exhibited with that crash, and him possibly being drunk also. But nobody ran a test, and he was not caught to be drunk. But there's a possibility that he could have been drunk because he went to a friend's house for a party. Apparently, you never know, But these are the reasons why
I think he's definitely. I mean, just football-wise, I think he's a solid player. I think against United, he was top class when he scored that goal also over the curled it in. It was a super. I think he's top quality for sure. I love Maddison also, actually, to be honest. I think he's a super player, great physique. I think he's got that vision too. Maddison is someone who I'd prefer over Grealish, actually. But I don't think Leicester are going to leave Maddison for sure, because I think now Leicester are in a
too expensive also.
Yeah, but I don't think Leicester will leave. I think they're trying to build a team with Maddison in the picture, so I doubt that's going to happen for sure.
Playing the devil's advocate here, but Grealish is still pretty young, and I don't think we should define his entire career by the just one incident.
Yeah,
So I think he'll have plenty of opportunities to improve at United. So I still
Very
feel
true.
it'll be a good sign.
That right, but from what I understand, his track record with his off-field antics is still this. It's he's had quite a few incidents like this. I remember reading something very vaguely that he's had a couple of incidents very similar to this previously, and that's the reason for my see. I really like him as a footballer. He's a really good footballer. He's got that style. He's got that finesse, and he'd probably be a perfect United player because he's able to absorb that pressure and all of that, and he has a little bit of the swag about himself and all of that. But the but my issue is this whole his off-field persona, and you don't want him and he's played for a very small team and he's been the star. You don't know if somebody like that with the kind of ego that he comes with, if he'll be able to come to a big team where there are so many players and be not the star but one of the guys who performs. Those are also a lot of things that we have to take into account before because we already have a couple of leaders who are very very
I mean,
vocal,
the
and you
important
have
part
Bruno
from what you're
already
saying.
being the
Yeah, I think you're trying. I mean, it's important thing because he's going to be known. Whoever's going to be signed, say Pogba leaves, he's going to be signed as Pogba's replacement. He's going to be that tag.
replacement, right?
So
Right.
that's going to be a tag which is quite heavy.
I
And
don't I
yeah,
don't think Grealish will suffer with the pressure that comes with being the Pogba replacement, but his just general attitude, his attitude is where my doubts arise. And I'm sure, and from what we hear about how Ole is, being the ruthless guy, I don't think he would, be willing to put up with somebody with the wrong attitude, especially at this point of time when he's so close to having a complete turnaround and getting a really good squad that is super hungry and ready for everything, to challenge
yeah.
probably in a year or
Let's
so.
see. I don't know if football, or let's hope first the pandemic subsides and then probably
Right,
football
right, right,
be one of the
right,
most watched. I think the first game, whichever game it is going to be, it's probably going to be the most televised, the most watched
right,
football ever in the history of.
right,
Uh,
right,
so it's going to, even if it's going to be a
and
Bundesliga game, even if it's going to be like a
right.
championship game, even if it's going to be an Indian league game, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be like watched all
Right.
the way through.
And
So I
I'm
mean, I
sure
think all,
all of United fans will be eyeing at Dortmund games just to get a glimpse of Sancho and to understand his game even better, and to see what signs we have going forward. With Sancho probably signing for us, which is quite exciting. Have you guys picked a Bundesliga team that you guys want to support until we get through this pandemic?
Or
I
Dortmund for sure.
yeah, actually,
Also,
Right.
Red Bull Leipzig has been doing pretty well this season under Julian
Very good. Yeah.
Nagelsmann. I think they're a fun team to watch. They'll
yeah, I
also
think they
be
Yeah.
beat well, right, in the group stage, did they, or was it a draw? Or they, that's when they
They
signed.
beat who?
Oh no, that was the Red Bull Salzburg, was it?
yeah.
Salzburg.
Red Bull
Salzburg.
Leipzig
Salzburg.
knocked
Salzburg.
Tottenham out of the Champions League.
Tottenham.
Correct, correct, correct.
They
So
look
that's
very, very, very promising. There are a lot of Red Bull teams that are quite good. Red Bull slowly also they are also like a company that's taking over a lot of these sporting teams in a lot of different sports as well. With them being completely into the Formula One, where they have two teams, not just one. They have two teams. And they have a lot of teams in Germany, Austria, and they also have a couple of teams in one or two teams in the US in the MLS.
if I'm not wrong, I think they're partnered with an Indian team. I'm not sure. Very recently.
Really,
Yeah,
very very
I'm
interesting.
not
Very
able to think of
interesting.
the team.
Right. So that's good signs for us, to see the City Group investing in the ISL, to see Red Bull possibly investing in the ISL. That's signs of really good things to come for us in
And
the
East
ISL as well.
Bengal is going to be part of the ISL as well, right? That's what I read as well.
Yeah, I think the
Uh,
government wants East Bengal to be a part of the ISL. I think
Yeah, yeah.
they already have steps in place to merge the ISL and I League. So once that happens, it'll be really good. We'll have a proper
I
league to
think it'll
follow.
be a tire. Yeah.
Yeah, which runs the
Oh,
entire year
it's
and
going to
stuff.
be one whole league, or it's going to be tires? like
It's
the Premier League and the Championship?
It's going to be a two-tier system, I think. But
Correct.
instead of league running for just 3-4 months in case of ISL, it's going to be a proper 8-month league.
Full season, yeah, full
So
season.
that'll be good.
That's very exciting. That's very exciting for us.
Absolutely.
Right.
All it was
Right.
great,
Right.
great talk.
And
Thank
we
you,
have another
KB.
bit of happy.
Oh, we do?
We
Oh,
have a
yes.
happy news to end our podcast. So apparently United are set to be back on the 18th of May, back in training if everything holds good. So that is something that we have something to look forward to. So fingers crossed to at least see them train. I'm sure United will come out with a couple of videos at least to see them train, which is quite exciting. And
I think it's going to be more like individual training starting and then they go as a team. I think there's a lot of
correct.
social distancing, quarantine rules or something to say have to follow.
Correct.
Which
They're
is
supposed to play in smaller groups. They're supposed to train in
Yeah.
smaller groups as well.